Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda, and welcome to another webinar in the Goal Line series of webinars that we've been putting on here over the last couple of months. Very excited to put on today's webinar because we are going to be talking about the new Goal Line control panel that if you're a website administrator on Goal Line, you've been seeing this for a couple of weeks now. And so we wanted to take the time to take a look at what this new look really entails and really take a look through all of the navigation and basically have a tour of the control panel. And locate where all of your features are. So a couple of housekeeping notes are that there is no audio for you when you're attending the webinar. There is a chat. So if you do have a question throughout the webinar, feel free to pop your question into the chat. I will do my best to answer questions as they come up, or let you know if we plan on touching on something related to your question throughout the webinar. If necessary, we'll get back to you later, depending on what kind of question that is. The webinar is also being recorded, and so you will automatically receive an email shortly after the webinar has completed with a link to watch the recording. And if you weren't able to attend, you should still receive that email as long as you registered. But I believe that we've made it so that even if you try to register, tomorrow, you'll still be able to watch the webinar. So if you have any colleagues who didn't attend today, they would be able to access the webinar anyway through the previous recording. They can do that for any of our webinars that we've put on to date, which includes some really exciting ones about scheduling, registration, communication tools, and website building, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get started here. Today, we are going to review the new look of the Goal Line Admin Control Panel. And we're going to take a deep dive into the new user menu to locate items that would have previously been in your control panel header. We're going to review all of the new menu groupings to see how the features have been reorganized. We're going to look at how we navigate to league or team control panels, and then how we return to the master menu. And then we're going to take a quick look at the favorites option. So we'll start by looking at our new user menu. So our user menu is now located over on the right-hand side, and this is going to be your initials. So I'm in here as Goal Line right now, but let's just hop over here to a different one. I'm logged in as John Smith right now, so I'm JS over here. So I've got my user menu here, and I can click on this to open up some additional options. So the name of the site that I'm in is the first thing that I should generally see. And so we can see that over here as well. So we're in our demo site. And then on my other site here, so I've got no drop-down option available here. And I just want to point out that some organizations might have a drop-down located here. This is for our network sites where there may be a multi-site access happening. So if you do have this, if this makes sense to your organization, then you would click on this to access any of the sites that you have available to hop into as far as an admin with access to those sites. That's something that works really only with our organizationally tied networks. So if that does apply to you and you're curious how that might work, you can reach out to the support team or our customer success team to find out more about multi-site access within a network of sites on Goal Line. The next thing we see here is go to site. And so we used to have up here the view site magnifying glass option. So now we have go to site, which is going to open that site up for us in a new tab so that we can see our public facing website. Our news and updates and the FAQ and support options, many of these at the moment do go to the same place. So news and updates, what we're going to eventually see soon is that this is going to point to an area within the Stack Sports website that just provides you with news and updates about the Goal Line platform. So right now, this is taking us to the FAQ that you're used to seeing when you select the help menu, which is also what you're going to see if you select the FAQ. So FAQ and news and updates is going to take you currently to the same place, but we do have some great plans for that in the future. As you know, the Goal Line FAQ is a great resource for looking for your own self-help information, also live chatting with our support team, or creating a case that gets submitted directly to our support team. Support is also going to take you to our knowledge base. So the customer support area is going to take you to the knowledge base that actually includes all of the different platforms within Stack Sports. So if you do use more than one product, going to the support area is going to allow you to select to kind of search the knowledge base here for anything, including Goal Line, but also maybe some other products that you happen to use. If you happen to use Stack Pay or Tournament Connect or any of those other platforms, you'd be able to select the help items that are appropriate there. The webinars is going to take you directly to our FAQ webinar listing page. Right now, these are the older webinars that you've seen on here for quite some time, and we do plan to update those. We should actually be seeing quite a few updated help materials coming in and replacing what we see here. But the webinars landing page is always going to land you on this page. We'll just be updating the webinars to include the more recent updated webinar information. And then what we also have here is our logout option. So logout used to be located again up in that header menu previously. So now logout is down here. So the user menu is up here, and this is going to contain all of the things that you were used to seeing up along the top with some additional items that that will start taking you to some more informative pages as we work on those news and updates kinds of landing pages there. So that's the user icon menu. So that's going to be really useful and powerful for you to be able to view the site as you're kind of working on things in the back end here as a way to kind of preview what you're doing and just see what does this look like now that I've done this, what does it look like on the site, and just as a way to go and view what's going on, and also allows you to access that help information. So the next thing we'll do is take a look at our different groups of menu items that we see in the control panel. So the order that we see at the master menu is always going to be the same for everybody. So we're going to see our favorites, followed by people, email, website, schedules, and officials and referees. So if you're an organization with that is, baseball or softball, you'll see officials and umpires instead, and that kind of thing. That terminology will update appropriately based on what kind of officials your sport uses. The control panel has been updated to group these items into more appropriate sections. This is designed to make it easier for you to locate the specific kind of items that you're looking for based on the category of the activity. And we'll find that most of these sections are going to have a specific area for the types of settings where configuration tools are going to be grouped in. So settings is something that you would probably visit less frequently than the kind of items that you would use, for example, in the players and parents section. Just noticing a question there. So Margot, this webinar, it pertains to the Goal Line platform. And so if that is not the platform that you're using, then this may not be the webinar for you. This Goal Line admin control panel is specifically to the Goal Line platform. So if you have a website that is part of the Goal Line network, that's what's going to apply to you here. The other thing I want to note here, a couple of notes would be that within all of these sections, you may find some features maybe don't show up when you log in, or you might see some features that look different than someone else that you know who uses a Goal Line site. So there are certain things that may only apply if you are a club or association style organization, whereas some things would only be applicable if you have leagues on your site. For example, managing tiebreakers is not something that a club with only rep teams would even have, because you don't manage tiebreakers and you don't manage standings. But someone who manages full-on divisions and leagues would have a tiebreaker tool. I'll also note that every user has their own set of permissions granted to them as either a main contact or an admin with specific permissions given out by your association. So any features that you don't have permission for will be shown to you, but they will be grayed out and you won't be able to click on them. I'm logged in as either Goal Line admin or a main contact user right now, so I won't be coming across anything really that I'm not going to be able to click on. But if you do see an item that you can't click on to do anything with, it's because you don't have permission. If that sounds like an issue for you, then you might want to reach out to your organization and just say, hey, I see this tool. I think I should be allowed to use it, and determine if that might be appropriate. So we'll start by taking a quick look down through the menu, and similar to before, I can click on any of these headings to bring those tools to the top of my screen. So that hasn't changed. I can click on email and it's going to bring those email specific tools to the top for me, or schedules or officials and that kind of thing. But I can also scroll from the top to the bottom and scroll all the way down to any and all of those groupings. So everything is still on that same page. We just want to be able to click and bring it up a little bit faster. So within the people section, you're going to find a players and parents section. This is really where most of the features are that are going to allow you to manage things. So creating players, finding players. So essentially, if, you're reporting on players in your system, registration reports, things like that. And then we'll have assign multiple players. Assign multiple players may or may not show up for all users, depending on your permission. And then there's individual registration forms in here. Individual registration forms will only be shown to you if your organization has registration tools active, which I do believe is probably most goal line organizations that use registration, but there are some who might not have this feature listed here. If you don't have access to registration tools, then you can certainly reach out to our support team or customer success, and we can hook you up. Import athletes is also here. I'll kind of make a quick note. I'm referring to players and ignoring the fact that my current demo site uses athlete as a label. Most of you are going to see players there, but for certain organizations and certain sport types, the word athlete is more appropriate. So my demo site just currently uses the word athlete, but import players is what we would see here. And then edit the player information displayed. This is where it's going to allow you to set up the columns that you want in your search results, or personal or information that would display along with rosters on the public side. Creating, importing, and searching for registrants and editing registrant info displayed is also available in here. So registrants are people that are not really players, but they are probably relevant and maybe registering for certain things. The player evaluations, again, this is something that would only show for you if you have this enabled, and then viewing and editing player evaluations as well. So the player and parent tools that are available here, pretty much everything you need to access to manage players is going to be found in this section. And then below that, we'll find team options, so team registration forms. And if you've used team registration forms, you may have the ability to review registered teams. My demo site is old and uses some older legacy tools. So I also have an older review tournament registrations option. This is just because I do have data using an old feature, and so I don't review them in the same way. But for the most part, most people will see, actually I can hop over to our site over here and see kind of what that looks like for most. Oh no, they have that there too. Registered teams and team registrations there. So the next section that we have is regarding coaches. So creating, searching, importing, and editing coach info displayed. Editing coach info displayed, we'll see that as well for our volunteers and officials as well. This again, like players, I'll just hop in here really quickly because some folks may not know what we do in here. So the search results column, import sample columns, and then public facing items such as coach listings and coach profiles and stuff. So this is where you go to make those kinds of updates. So if you needed to make those changes, the edit person type info displayed is where you're going to go to get those custom results. If you have volunteers enabled, you'll have a volunteer section where you can create or import volunteers. There is also volunteer searching if you actually have volunteers in the system. There are none on this site, so we don't have a reporting tool there. And then with reports, we have our audit log, transaction report, executive report, find people, and then a text messaging report. Not all organizations have text messaging enabled, so you would only have the text message report if that is in fact enabled for you. Executive reporting is just kind of high level reporting on various things. It's kind of aggregated information. It's not detailed reporting. So if you're looking for detailed reporting on who registered for certain things, you're going to go to that person type and say how many coaches registered for this specific program. The transaction report is directly related to registration activity, so registrations that either occurred online or through manual registration data or through imported registration data. The transaction report is designed to complement the report that you get from your merchant processor, which is most likely StackPay, so you can reconcile your batch reports and processing reports from StackPay with the transaction report provided from Goalline. This does aggregate all transactions for all person types, so whether it was a coach, a player, or a team, you're still going to see all of that information in one area for your financial reconciliation. Just popping in for a question here to toggle off the descriptions. That's an interesting question. I don't think that there's no such toggle at the moment to be able to kind of turn off the description, but I can certainly see your point there, and that's something I can pass along as some feedback. The next section that we have is our email section. So email is where we go to do exactly that. We can manage things related to email. The obvious one is going to be sending our email and text message announcement. So this is just replacing the communication section that included both email and website settings. So now we've broken those out as separate areas. The email sign up list members, if you do have this placed on your site for people to sign up to receive email for subscription lists, this is where you're going to go to manage those email sign up list members. Your unsubscribed email addresses listing is also going to be here. This is where you can go to easily check and see if someone is not receiving your emails because they have unsubscribed from one or more types of the emails that you'll be sending from the system. This is also where you would go to send a resubscribe request to anybody who has unsubscribed. User email settings is something that applies to every user individually, and it's going to use your website admin profile information. I'm going to hop over to my other site here because I'm logged in as a regular user. So user email settings, what this does is it takes your website admin information and allows you to create your own email signature that you can set as a default. And that means whenever you send an email from the system, it's going to be using your email signature as opposed to just generic kind of sign off. So you can configure your own unique email signature, and it's going to be using these details there. So that's what that one is all about. I know a lot of folks haven't really used that email signature or default email settings there in the past, and so I do like to point that out now and then. And then beyond our email, the next thing that we have is a website. So we'll look at website here, and website is where we're going to go to manage the content and the settings related to our website. So we've now broken the communication tools up into kind of 4 different areas. We have the website content, website settings, website commerce settings, and then email has been completely separated out. And so this just allows you from that top level to say, I need to send an email. So I'm going to click on email. There are obviously other ways that you could be sending email. One recommendation that I often give to folks is to use your search results from whatever person's search it is that's relevant and select to email directly from those search results. That's if you're looking for those targeted emails. You can still do that. The features behind any of these tiles, none of those have changed. And so you're still going to be able to make those targeted email results. So the website content area is going to be where we do kind of the specific content updating of the website. So news articles, files and images that you might be using throughout the use of creating a news article or a web page or other event specific pages. Managing events themselves, so adding events that could be listed as upcoming events on your site, creating and managing your existing web pages, photo galleries if you have this enabled, and the ads that you can place on your site, ticker announcements. And then I have this one here on my demo site called Display Slideshow. This is a really great tool. If you are a tournament and you want to have a website slideshow running in kind of your hospitality suite in your for your tournament, displaying a slideshow is a neat idea. If you don't have access to that, but you think it might be useful, reach out to the support team and we can toggle that on for you. Quick question there from John asking about the weather widget. I have already asked that question. So the question was, can we change that to Celsius instead of Fahrenheit? And that is something that we are working with the weather provider on, because currently the AccuWeather service only provides that information in Fahrenheit. That was actually, I think, the first thing that I noted was we don't use Fahrenheit up here. And so that is something that we should be seeing updated in the future, hopefully sooner than later. And that AccuWeather widget is going to be replacing the public side widget that has been using an older service for some time and not accurately displaying the weather. So we will be seeing updates on that. I'll just hop back over here so I can show you what he's referring to. So this AccuWeather up here is showing us in Fahrenheit, and it doesn't matter. It does ask for your location, but that is going to show it to us in Fahrenheit at the moment. All right. And so with website, as I mentioned, that's our content stuff that we can do here. I've moved over to the other demo site, so I no longer have the slideshow option. So that is something that we can toggle on and off. Certain things like photo galleries, I'll just point out as well that you may need to go to your site configuration to have that enabled, either here at the master menu or in your league and team menus, because photo galleries can be toggled on and off in the site configuration tool. Not all organizations want to use photo galleries. So that does bring us to the settings section here. So within our settings, we have our site configuration tools, our standard menu settings. If you do have text messaging enabled, you'll have a text messaging report. And if you are using registration for registering clubs, you would also have your review registered clubs information in here, so that you could approve or deny a club registration for your current season. The site configuration and standard menu settings, these do very much go hand in hand in a lot of your setup. So site configuration, I'll hop in here really quickly just to point out a couple of the little toggles that might impact some of the features you see or don't see. So we have association photo galleries here as that example, and then team photo galleries. For this site, they are enabled, but if you didn't want it to be enabled for one or the other, you can select no and turn that off at the team level, or no at the association level and yes at the team level. And so you do have that option in here. There's also things like your suspensions. So if suspensions are not enabled, then you're not going to see the suspensions item when we look into our scheduling settings and things like that. So just to point out where you would be going to manage some of these settings that you either see or don't see when you're logged in. If you've checked out this area and you're still not seeing certain items that you're expecting to see, definitely reach out to the support team and we can help you either find it or turn it on for you if it's not something that you can toggle on your own. For those that have our silver layout or our responsive layout like we have shown here, this is where you are going to find your site configuration launch homepage customization tool option. So site configuration is found in your website settings area, and that is where you're going to go to do any of your homepage configuration for your silver layout site, and then manage all the other content that goes along with that. The commerce section is located in the website settings area as well. And this is really so that you as an association or organization can broadly create products and discounts that can be used on any and all of your registration forms. So this may or may not show up for you. If you don't use registration, you certainly won't see it. If you've been using registration for a long time, you may also not see this feature because it does have to be enabled for you. If that sounds like a feature you'd be interested in, you can reach out to the support team and we can toggle that on for you. With products and discounts, you can also group them into upgradable groupings so that you can have people who can purchase a higher level product and pay the difference between different product options. So the commerce area is going to be where you're going to set things like that up. And the next section that we see is our schedules section. And schedules is going to be broken up into the kinds of events you can do, different schedule settings, your venues, and what we've labeled as bodies in here. So we'll first start up at the top with our events. So from the master menu, I can create practices or games for any of the teams or leagues within my site. And so I can do that by clicking in here. I can also upload schedule files that include games or practices for any of the leagues and and teams in my site. So that's what I can do with managing events at the master menu level. The schedule settings area, this is going to be really, really key for anybody who is ready to roll their season forward into the new season. If your season's just come to an end, manage seasons and manage schedules, as most of you would know if you've ever watched any of my tutorial videos. All leagues and teams must have an active season and schedule. So this is where you're going to go to make sure that those settings are done correctly. Managing seasons and schedules can also be done at your league and team levels. I strongly recommend that as an organization, you opt to manage that at the master menu to avoid confusion and, confusing seasons and having various season settings going on throughout your organization, as opposed to consistent settings across all of your teams and leagues. So feel free to check out any of our scheduling webinars or tutorials in the FAQ regarding managed seasons and schedules. You can also create tryout listings. This is similar to an event listing on the public website. So those tryout listings just make it easier for you to quickly add tryouts. And then if you do have leagues on your site, you'll see also the manage tiebreakers option here. So managing the tiebreakers allows you to do two things. One is apply a custom tiebreaker that is different than the default tiebreaker on any of your standings style schedules. So round robin and regular season style schedules would be standing style schedules. You can set a different tiebreaker there. It also allows you to update the columns that are visible in the standings when people view the standings on the public side of the site. So you might like the default tiebreaker itself, but maybe you want to use the tiebreaker tool to also update the columns in the standings to show or hide the columns that you do or don't want to see. Then we have venues, which is fairly straightforward here. We add our venues. You can import venues using a CSV formatted file, and you can review venue time summaries. I think this is an underused feature, so I'll just talk about that for a quick second here. So what the venue time summaries does is gives you a breakdown of the venue time used across all of your teams within your organization. And it breaks it down to the level of like home game versus away game and practice time for all of your leagues and teams, so that you can really get an idea of how you've distributed your venue time across teams. If you do have a policy as an organization where teams are required to have, X amount of minutes in certain venues, then that venue time summaries is going to be a great report for you to take a look at and just see how well you're doing with distributing that time. Bodies in this area is referring to it's sort of a catch-all for catching. So the leagues that you add, the different divisions you need, that is a separate entity from any other division. So if you have 5 or 6 divisions and you've got 5 different leagues that you're going to be adding in managed leagues, and your rep teams are independently managed as well, and so your rep teams are going to go in manage association teams. You can import teams from here as well. This does apply only to league teams. So I can create my leagues, make sure that they have an active season and schedule, and then I can import teams directly into those leagues so that I don't have to go to the league menu, click manage teams, and add the teams in manually, or I don't have to wait for team registration to happen. Import teams also allows you to actually replace the names of teams later on. And so what's really neat about that is for organizations running tournaments, or if you want to prepare your playoff schedule well ahead of time, when you really have no idea, even what teams you might have in your regular season schedule or your round robin schedule, you can create placeholder teams, and then later when you know who those teams actually are, you can import teams to replace them. So that's a really neat feature that a lot of folks probably have never used, but it is possible to really kind of make some of your management more efficient leading from a regular season or round robin into a playoff schedule, or simply getting ready for a season in advance. If teams declare how many, or if clubs declare how many teams they expect to be sending to your individual divisions, you could go through and kind of get more specific with replace the team name or rename the team later on. The report game scores, if you see this at the master menu level, usually this is applied to tournament organizations, but it is a pretty fun tool to use. It allows you to report any number of games at the same time, as opposed to the typical method, which is going to be going to your league or team menu statistics area and reporting a game score on a per game basis. So if you run tournaments and you have a lot of games happening at the same time, you can report multiple games. It's only going to ask you for the score entry, and the purpose is get the standings updated so that you know who's going to be pushing through and who's in first or second place when it comes to the playoff schedule that will be coming shortly thereafter. So report multiple games here is it's just that. And even if you opt to have individual player stats when you report games, the report game scores function here is still just going to ask you for the score, and then you can go further report and add in those statistics through the typical method of reporting games later on. Again, this is something that tournaments typically use, and if you don't see it and you'd like to have that available, reach out and let us know. That is our schedules. And then if you are also using the referee tools, you're going to see the officials and referee section over here. And this is divided very, very similar to what it previously was. The official section of Goal Line was already kind of broken down in a very similar way. So what we have here is our personnel. So creating and finding officials, importing officials, and edit official info displayed, and then assignments. So editing assignments, this is obviously where you go to do all of that actual assigning, and then there are some reports available for that as well. Availability overview and date range lets you look at how many rests you have available and that kind of thing. And then the assigner report is a great report to kind of audit the activity of your assigners. It gives you an idea of how many positions they've assigned, how many overrides they used, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what the assignment section shows us here. The system preferences, not all of these may apply. Actually, no, I think all of these would apply. And now that I'm looking closer here on my demo site, I've got some extras. But setting the official titles, this is a setting that really, if you're using the ref system, you've definitely set this already, because that is step one of setting up the referee system. It's also where you're going to go to set official certification levels. You can set qualifications based on having a certain certification level, if that applies properly to your organization. If you've got questions about that, definitely reach out, because there are lots of really cool ways to use the Goal Line Advanced Referee system to help out with qualifications of referees if you don't want to do it one at a time. Setting assignable venues just allows you to omit certain venues from your list of games that you see when you are editing assignments. So this is a nice system preference to set at the beginning so that you don't accidentally or have to filter through away venues that just don't apply to you as an assigner. Incident report notifications as well is where you can set up who should receive a report when there is an incident from a game. Official pay rates and miscellaneous pay alterations is where we go to set up what do referees get paid by default, and then if we need to alter anything, we can alter that here. This alteration is also something you can do when editing officials' assignments. And then in reports, there's all kinds of really great reports in here. So official payroll summary report. This is going to summarize things based on the pay rates and alterations that have been added. The billing report takes into account those same things, but it's basically for the perspective of I'm going to bill the league for the services I provided as an assigner, as opposed to I'm going to pay the referees the amount shown on my payroll summary. And then game counts per team and position counts per league are great ways for you to take a look at how are you assigning and distributing your officials across games, making sure that you're not assigning the same ref to the same team's games all the time, or making sure that your referees are sharing their positions appropriately. I know in soccer, I'm personally a soccer referee, so there's often, how many middles versus how many lines has a person done, and that kind of thing. So these kinds of reports are really helpful for just seeing how you're distributing your officials, so that you can kind of be equitable with the way that you assign. And then there are official evaluations. And so this is either viewing the official evaluations or we can submit an evaluation. Only administrators with permission to submit an evaluation will see this feature here. It's not one that typically gets grayed out, but they could also be submitting official evaluations from the actual referee control panel. And they don't have to be logged in as an administrator if they have permission to do so. The official contact list is exactly that. It's just a list. It's instead of going to find referees and searching, it's just a contact list. And there is a column to determine what should show up in the official contact list when you are in the official info displayed area here. So you're able to determine or to tell the system what should we see when we go into the official contact list. This official contact list may also be visible to referees logged into their own personal referee control panel, again, controlled by what you've chosen to allow to be viewed. Displaying official assignments is almost the same as the edit officials assignments area, except for there is no edit option. One of the things that's great about this tool is that if you are an organization that wants, division coordinators or team coaches to be able to view referee assignments without having to worry about them touching or changing or, messing around with any assignments, giving them permission to display official assignments lets them use this tool, and it lets them view the kinds of assignments you want them to see based on permissions without having to grant them access to the edit options at all. So that is the official section. Again, very similar to the layout and organization that was previously there. Not a lot of changes on that side of things. And then, everything else as far as how these features actually work is still exactly the same. So official pay rates. I think one question that I received kind of randomly, I think it was more of a coincidence that the question came up, was that, I'm going to go to my other site here where I've got more bells and whistles turned on, was where do I go to turn off the up for grabs feature for a specific division? And so that's going to happen in the official pay rates area. The up for grabs tool, if you're using it, can be disabled on a per division basis in here, just like you can set your pay rates on a per division basis. It's also where you go to set whether or not something is by default a cash game or whether or not you pay it later on as part of the payroll report that you would be generating from there. So that's a question that I received, but it hasn't moved. It's just that I think some folks may have forgotten where to go to look for that particular one. So yeah, those are the master menu areas here. The master menu will always be listed for you in this order, and you can click around to any of the tools and bring that directly to the top. And as I said earlier, we can keep scrolling down and viewing any other section. One of the things about the descriptions as well is that you'll find that you can use Control F to look for something that you're not necessarily able to find just visually scanning the page if it's not kind of where you expected it to be. So you can use Control F to look up anything that's part of the title or even part of the description in case maybe the label that you're looking for is not quite accurate. So that's kind of neat as well. I think there was a time where things were more images and made it difficult to locate specific keywords if you happen to be looking for them. So that is the master menu. And beyond the master menu, let me just see here, sorry. A button or a link at the top for the master menu or admins or referees on their respective control panels. So at the moment, there is, if I'm already in the master menu, I don't have a master menu button anywhere. I think that is one of the biggest changes that you'll see with this new look to the control panel. So as you navigate into a team or a league menu, that's when you get your option to go back to the master menu. So we no longer see what I would refer to as kind of that breadcrumb along the header. So if I do hop into one of my league menus, if I want to get back to the master menu, I can open this up and just click back to go to the master menu, and it will take me back to the master menu. So that's whether I'm in a team menu or a league menu, I open this back up and do that. I have brought that up as feedback. I personally had the same feedback, was having a master menu button was just something that we were kind of used to as users, especially those of us who have been using the system for a long time. It definitely is nice to have that button to go back to the master menu a little bit more visible than having to select this. So I've passed that along for sure already. So we should eventually see some updates maybe to that particular navigation. So as we navigate, you can navigate to league or team control panels. So either using the league dropdown or the team dropdown that shows up in the header here, you would just go to whichever one it is that you want to manage. If you don't have permission for anything at the master menu, then you're going to have to select either a league or a team menu to go into. If you only have access to one of permissions for one league or one team, you will log in and you'll be brought directly there per usual. But if you do have access to more than one team or league, but nothing at the master menu level, then you do land at the master menu and you have to select which team or league you'd like to go to. So Ron, you're asking where to go to allow a user to access the mentor or supervisor columns under edit referee assignments. So that sounds to me like what you need to do is edit a website administrator. And then when you edit that specific assigner, whoever should be able to access that, you would go to set assigner permissions. And then you'll see all of the positions and all of the divisions that are available, and you just check the appropriate columns. So we'll go and we'll select a league control panel here. We'll go and take a look at my favorite league control panel that I always go to in my demonstrations and hop into my women's league here. And we'll notice that the layout is going to be very, very similar to what we see at the master menu, which again, not a huge change from what we saw before, but things will be a little bit more pointed. And so we do have our email option. So sending an email or text announcement, again, my user email settings, and then my website options for content. But when I have options for website that are at the league or team level, they're more specific than just at the master menu level. So creating a news article, for example, from the league control panel adds the news to my division news on the public site, but it does not add it to the homepage news slider, for example. It will be part of your news archive, but it won't be part of the news that's listed there on the homepage. So within our league admin control panel, we will see our league admin tools, our email tools, websites, schedules, and statistics, but we won't see the officials tools because officials tools are only managed at the master menu, and statistics tools are not at the master menu because those are only really managed at the team or league specific menu. Just looking at the questions here. So on the officials, I'm sorry, referee contact list. Okay, so there is right now, I know that one of the cases that our product team is working on is related to the referee control panel, where the menu, the left menu, goes away when you go into any specific feature. Using the back button definitely does return you to that menu, but there is our product team is aware of that, and we do expect to have an update on that. But I will have to look into what you're noting there about the referee contact list. If you are, one thing that's always been the case with the referee system, if you are a website administrator with access to this control panel and you're also a referee with access to your own personal referee control panel, you can't really be logged into both at the same time unless you're using a private or incognito browser. Because what happens is your token, when you log in, recognizes that you have referee permissions, and that's less than website admin permissions. And so you'll always be sort of kicked back down to your lowest level set of permissions. And that's just kind of a security feature to say that we don't want a referee to log into the admin control panel and have more permissions than they should actually have. So we can maybe follow up on that, but note that the referee control panel menu is something that we have noted that and expect to have that repaired. Now it's definitely still available. The menu's still there, and the back button on your browser will always still function correctly to get back to that menu. So getting back to our league admin control panel here, from a league admin control panel, you can manage the specifics regarding the teams that belong to this league. Something that I think is important to note is that users who have access, regular users who are not a main contact, will have access to either a league menu or a team menu, and not both. Main contacts will have access to both. But if I have a league if I have league permissions, then I can use my league control panel. And if I go to do something like managing players and parents as part of my league, I can manage those for any of the teams that belong to my league. So I would be able to add players to any of the teams that are necessary to add in there. I can manage and release players from teams and things like that. So the league management tools allow you to manage anything related to the teams within that league as well. If I only have team-specific permissions, then I'm not able to do anything at the league menu, and I would only be able to really manage things that belong to my team-specific menu. And as I said, website admins that have main contact permissions do have access to both of those menus. Every website administrator created that is not considered a main contact is either a league administrator or a team administrator. And so that's why you're going to see one or the other as far as your options in this upper right-hand corner goes. With the, we'll just go back out to the master menu here. And so with the menu navigation, I may also want to navigate into a team menu. So this team menu here is listing my rep teams. So these are my association teams that are part of my menu groupings, or this one here that's not displayed or part of any kind of menu group. So when I go into my team specific menu, I'm going to see yet again a similar grouping of items. So I have my team admin, email, website, schedules, and statistics options. The difference here is that when I'm adding players or reporting games or adding practices, I'm only able to do it and deal with this one specific team. So I can add players to this team roster, but I'm not able to add players to any other roster from this menu. So my team admin tools are going to be specific to the team that I am currently in the menu of. Reporting statistics is going to be reporting games that this specific team was actually a part of. So changes only apply to those specific teams that are selected. If you have access to league admin, the league admin control panel, and you won't have access to the team admin because you'll access and manage that team through that league admin area. So you don't necessarily see it the same way as here if you are a league administrator. And again, main contact would have both of those options available. So we'll head back out to the master menu here. And the last thing that we'll cover before we take a look at what kind of questions are still remaining is favorites. So favorites are unique to each user. So all users, you can set your own favorites at the master menu, league menu, or team menu levels. So when you're logged in, if you do have access to the master menu, you can set your favorites here and manage those favorites or add or remove your favorites here. And that's going to allow you to set up what is it that I want to see up here. If the tasks that I do the most frequently are sending emails, uploading schedules, and reporting multiple games, then that's what I want to see first, and I don't want to have to go and find those items throughout the different feature categories. And so I will select the item directly from my favorites. If I add or remove favorites, it's just going to give me a listing of all of the different options that are available, and I can check off whichever one I want to have as part of my favorites. If I do navigate to a league menu, I'm going to have a different set of favorites because the features at the league level are different. So I can go and I don't have any favorites at this league level, so I can click to add or remove favorites here and set that up, and it's going to be specific to this league. If I manage more than one league, I may have different favorites for different leagues. Maybe for this women's league, I do a lot more than what I do maybe for the men's league, or vice versa. And so maybe maybe I want to have different favorites going on in different levels of this menu, but managing those favorites is going to be the same either way. And so as you are into any of your given menus, if you do have favorites set up, going to your master menu or your league menu will always show you your favorites first. If you haven't set up any favorites, it will still be showing here, but then it won't be showing up right here right away, because it's going to show you people first until you go ahead and actually set those favorites. And again, at that team level, there are favorite options available, so I can click favorites and add or remove favorites from my list of excuse me, team admin permissions and features. One thing to note here, sometimes you are able to select favorites that you don't have permission for. They might still show up in your favorites section, but it won't change whether or not you have permission to actually access those things. So don't worry about it. If you picked something that you don't have access to be part of your favorites, you can always just remove it by adding or removing favorites and taking that particular feature away. I think you guys have asked most of the questions already that I've received a bit. I think one of the things that that we didn't actually touch on when you had asked about the weather is because one of the main questions that I've received so far is, why does Goalline want my location? Because we didn't ask for location information previously. So Goalline wants your location so that it can display the weather, the Accuweather for you when you're visiting a Goalline site or in your admin control panel. So if I view my site information here, I have actually blocked my location for this particular site, but we're still being served over the same kind of SSL secure area, and I can choose to allow the location service to turn on at any time just by clicking on the little security option over here if I did want to see that weather widget over here. Another question was about features that maybe didn't show up for you before, but now you're seeing. And so I think one item in particular to use as an example is if you use the referee tools, you're going to find the certification level league qualifications. This was already available as a link from the certification levels, but now it's just listed here as its own independent tool to click on. So those are some of the questions that I've received. So now I'll just take a quick look over here. Tim has another question. Let's see here. So can that be the master menu? That is a suggestion for sure. As I said, the master menu, getting back to the master menu, I think because anybody who's used Goalline for any amount of time is so used to having a button that's located in this general area to go back to the master menu, that might be one of the things that they're considering for sure. I'm not really sure how they do plan on specifically addressing a new way to navigate to the master menu, but feedback like that is definitely something that we've discussed with them and tried to provide. Because and within the referee control panel, that could be a solution there as well. The referee control panel is it was updated a little bit as well, but really just to update the color scheme and the fonts to match what we see at this admin control panel. For anybody who has used that before, referee control panel hadn't been visually updated in all of my time here at Goalline. So that is something that we're excited to see some more modern look to things. But yeah, definitely looking at the referee control panel menu as something to look into. And so I'm just to make sure that you're all let me see here. Okay. Gotcha, some more questions here. So Dean, if you don't have a master menu, then that would mean that you don't have access to tools at the master menu. And so typically, if you're taking over for someone and you are the new main contact, part of that process does involve reaching out to us. Typically, the support team is where we want to start that communication, so that we can do a few things, so that we can kind of advise you on what needs to happen with any website admins that should be removed, so that we can update our accounting side of things, or account, I should say, side of things, to just indicate that we know who you are and that you are a contact who's allowed to reach out and request changes, things like that, and so that we can update your website admin profile, because only a Goal Line admin user, such as myself or the support team, has the ability to indicate that you are a main contact. So if you have a new website admin who is taking over the administration of a site, reach out to the support team to let us know about that main contact change, so that we can do all of those kind of things, and then make sure that you have all of the full access to the tools that you should have. Is it possible to change on manage web pages to make it easier to read? I know that one of the things that we are working on right now is, now that we do have this update out here, we are noticing, and sometimes it's going to depend on your resolution and on your browser and things like that, but we have noticed from time to time that there are some playing as cleanly as we would have liked, but I don't believe that there are going to be any changes to the web pages area. Managing web pages so creating a web page is exactly the same. It's just a different color scheme. And then let me just double check in here on manage web page, because I think the only difference is that we don't have borders or anything around some of the rows, because it used to be more of a table look, but we do still have all the same options in here. So your menu group divided into your top row, your second row, and your not displayed, and then we see our indentation for anything that is a sub page to any of those given pages. So if you're not seeing things that are correctly here, if you're not seeing things in a way that is easy to read, then that might be something that we want to investigate on a per instance basis there, just to see if there might be an issue. But this is it's really just a change to the look of the grid, as opposed to the previous look, which was more lines and table-like. Subpages of subpages. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. Let me just hop over to the other site that I have. So subpages of subpages. So on our silver layout, the subpages, you can have multiple subpages, and you can have a subpage to a subpage. And so you said you're not seeing that indenting the same way. Let me just see if I have any active examples of that I can. No. Let's make an example of that. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna make this page, whatever this page is. And we'll, instead of having a top menu first row, I will make it a subpage of this. And so that was my page called HHH, right? So back to list of pages. I gotcha. Okay. So we don't see, okay. I can see the issue there, and I will absolutely pass that along to our product team to get a look at that, because yeah, this should indicate that it is indented one further. So we'll definitely take a look at that. It may be something that they've already noted, so I'll just make sure that it's on the list of some of the smaller improvements that we need to make sure that we do. There's some other text areas where we've noticed that the text is kind of crammed into certain text areas, and so we've got quite a list of just some of those small fine-tuning items to address. So we're nearing the end of the hour here, and I think that's been a lot of great questions. Let me, see another question there. The season is missing or has not been set. That is correct. You cannot assign players to teams without a season. And so if you don't have admin rights to do that, then unfortunately the first troubleshooting step is going to be reach out to your administrator does have those main contact permissions. If you're not really sure who that is, we could certainly, what we generally do, if we're, not sure who to direct you to, is we will look at your website and we will look at your executive listing. So if your executive listing is published on your website, we will take a look at this and kind of point you in that direction for who we assume you should reach out to. But in general, you do need to have permission to manage seasons and schedules. And I do recommend to the main contact administrators that task be performed at the master menu on behalf of all the leagues and teams. So the kind of the short answer is, if you don't have access, you can't do it and you have to wait for someone to do it. The long answer is going to be a little more in depth in trying to make sure that you know who to reach out to. And, that is another time where you may want to look at, should I have permission for this or not, right? If you don't have access to something that you feel is part of your responsibilities with your role within the organization, then definitely, have that discussion with your organization. I haven't done an in-depth webinar on website admin permissions, but perhaps that's something that I can do in the future to really give a deep dive into what the permissions all are, and kind of by role in general, broad strokes, what permissions should generally be granted. Yeah. So there's, when it comes to managing your seasons and stuff, we definitely have webinars and lots of pointed tutorial information on how to manage your season. It is kind of a key foundation within Goal Line, is that all of your leagues and teams must have an active season and schedule in order for you to do things like assigning players, assigning coaches, creating practices, and just managing those teams in general. And what I usually recommend, if you do take a look at some of those tutorials on scheduling tools, I do recommend kind of broad season date ranges and generic season names that are applicable to any and all of the teams within your organization, so that there's not any kind of confusion, or using the schedule name instead of the season name, because that can cause some further confusion. And when it is done at the master menu, it can be done for all leagues and teams at the same time, so that you don't have to worry about, well, this group of teams is ready and now let's move on to get the other group of teams ready. Like, it does make things easier. And as a team administrator, you are very much limited in what you're able to do with respect to seasons and schedules in general. Team administrators by default don't usually have permission to manage a season. And so you would have to, I think in any circumstance, reach out to someone else unless they've already granted you that specific permission. And even then, it's going to only be for that one team that they've granted it for, and not for the whole organization. So managing seasons and schedules, definitely something to look into. The last webinar we did actually was pertaining to preparing for play in an upcoming season, and talked about how important that season rollover process is and some best practices there. So if you, the email that you received to tell you about today's webinar, I believe also had a listing of the past webinars. I would definitely check that one out. And you don't, when you click the link, it'll ask you to put in your email address and then let you access the recorded version of that webinar. So strongly encourage you guys to go check those out. So that brings us to the end of the hour. If there are any additional questions, we'll take a look here. Searching for players takes some time to download, wondering if there's a problem. So it depends on your criteria and your sort of how large of an organization or a network of organizations may be searched. I know there's a few other admins on the webinar today that have probably experienced a similar thing. When you are part of a large network with several organizations tied into you in various ways, sometimes that does cause search results to be a little slower than usual. We do have, and I'll just click into this real quick, we'll go to find athletes here. We do have a new search that we have not yet made the full-on default, but try the new search whenever you go into your search, find players or find coaches, that kind of thing. The new search will generate your search results faster than the default search, even if you are using additional criteria and registration kind of things. So using the new search is going to be one way to get faster search results. And so Ken is saying, when I copy and paste a web page link into Facebook, the image doesn't come with the link. I have heard, so we've had some difficulty in keeping up to date with the kinds of updates and requirements that Facebook has when using, news articles. And so unfortunately, that's not generally something that that we can resolve. What I can tell you, and I'm not sure, if you deal with any kind of Facebook support, but one of the things that I can tell you is that when images are uploaded and used on a goal line site, they are served from our content data network. And so you should be seeing those load quickly when you're viewing it on a goal line site, or just anywhere, if you plug it into your browser directly. But we can't really control or troubleshoot too much when it comes to what happens when you're trying to use a third party or a social media to get those images to come through. So I don't have a whole lot for you there. If that's something that you have further questions on, that might be worth sending in an email to our support team, just goal line support at what is it? It is goallinesupport@stacksports.com. So yeah, check that out. Hopefully we can maybe look into something there. But yeah, not as much in our control when it's on a third party or a social media site. All right. Any other questions there, guys? Lots of questions today. I think my last few webinars, I didn't get any. And so this is great. All right. I don't see anybody typing, so I think that we'll call it a day. Oh, Tim has one. Of course you do, Tim. What's your question, Tim? Yeah, so Tim, the item that you just mentioned, that is something that's currently with our developers as well. We're expecting a resolution on that really, really soon. That does impact, I know that it impacts your network specifically, but also, a few others that use that. So definitely keep an eye on our updates there to let you know when that has been resolved. How do we get access to the recording? So as soon as this webinar has ended, you should automatically receive an email from Livestorm sending you a copy of or access to a link that you can access the recording. And then, like I said earlier, if anybody from your organization didn't attend and wants to, they can still click through the original email that told you about today's webinar. You can still click through, and the webinars are available on demand. So all you have to do is enter your email address, and then it will allow you to access the webinar information and the full recording of the webinar. So you can pass that along to anybody who didn't receive it. Our most recent email did have a much wider reach than our previous emails. So I'm expecting that that's probably why we have more folks in our webinar today than we usually do, which is fantastic. But if anybody didn't get it for whatever reason, you can always forward it along, and you can always reach out to our support team and ask to be added to our email communication list. So thanks so much for your time here, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for bringing your questions, and thanks for attending. If you have any suggestions on future webinars, reach out to our support team and let us know.